What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mount Mograph Summit 75 2.5D head turns inside of Adobe After Effects. This is actually something I got a whole bunch of requests for in a couple different videos, so I thought I'd finally put something together, and this video is a lot of fun because we're gonna put together this weird little thing you see here, hopefully a better character than what you're seeing because my illustration skills are pretty bad. We're going to cover what the heck this thing is and how it's really helpful, which is a technique I like to do for the 2.5D head turns. We're going to cover using expressions to make your animation easier, and then we're going to also use a tool, quote unquote goodie giveaway, called Animo to make this whole process way easier. So first things first, let's go ahead and download Animo. It is in the description below. A little link to that. Let me jump on over. So this is what the thing is. You can download it for free. So download that, and then we're gonna take it into After Effects, and I'm actually going to go through the install process right now. There's one important step, so I do want to cover that. So let's go ahead and just quit After Effects, or really I will, if you don't have it open. And as you can see, I've already downloaded Animo. It's sitting on my desktop, so let me go ahead and undo the folder and open it up, and we have a wonderful 3 files inside. We have this thing, which is the actual tool. We have a little preset, and then we have the installation steps, which are important. If you don't want to listen to me blabber, feel free to read through those. I think they're pretty good. And yeah, so let's go ahead and install this. So first we want to take the Mountmo Animo JSX bin and actually copy it from this folder, and we're just going to go to your After Effects CC 2015 and go over to your scripts. You're not putting this into the script UI panel, you're putting it into the scripts folder. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste it, and as you can see, it shows up at the top. So this is actually a really important step, and this is the one little hiccup, and it's also in the installation steps. That's really important. That's why I typed important here to pay attention to. You need this to be the second item. So what I'd recommend doing is grabbing one of the I don't know if you guys use them or not, but these little guys sitting in here are like some scripts that just kind of ship with After Effects. But if you go back and you just add a space to in front of one of the names, it'll jump to the top, and there we go. We now have it as the second item on the list, which is exactly what we want. So now let's go ahead, grab this Mount Mograph folder, copy it, go over to our presets, and just paste that in there. And well, then we're almost done with the installation. So let's go ahead and open After Effects. I always wish it opened just a touch faster, but what can you do? So I'm going to go ahead and blabber for a second while the little guy's spinning around. There's a nice splash screen, and we're inside After Effects. So unlike your typical script UI panel, we're actually going to launch this from a shortcut. So we first need to install it. So what you need to do is go over to File, down to Scripts, and hopefully it shows up as the second item on the list if you added a space in front of one of the script items from there. So if it's not the second one, you want to make sure that it does show up on the second one before you go on to this next step. So let's go ahead and click it, and woo, it's installed. So Shift Command 2 to launch it at any time, and restart After Effects to finish it. So let's click OK and just quit After Effects and open it one more time. So hopefully this is installed properly. It would really suck if it in my own video I didn't install properly. So I'm gonna cross my fingers that I didn't make a fool out of myself and wait for After Effects to load. So let's go ahead and check something. Go down to scripts, and if this is installed properly, we're gonna see a little shortcut. So Shift Command 2 to launch Animo. So that is awesome. So we're almost done with that, so let's go on to the next step, which is going to be setting up a character. So I'm not going to go through the whole process because it's kind of always the same thing. So what I did is started with a really crappy drawing I did on my iPad, and then I went back and made a slightly better version, and it's very slightly still pretty crappy. And I took all those properties that I wanted to animate it, from the ears to the hair to the shirt, and I went ahead and separated those onto separate layers. So actually what I'm going to do is group those all, the neck and all that stuff, because we're not really animating them. It's just a video more about the head. Rename this layer body. So like I said, all these properties that you want to animate, just split up onto their own layers, so you can import them, and then I'll also just delete that top layer. That is cool with me. I never want to see that picture again. So once you have that set up properly, like I said, everything you want to animate, you want to go back to After Effects, double click to import. We're going to grab, well, I called this dude's head, and we're going to import it as a composition and to retain the layer sizes. And we're going to click open. So if I double click here, there's that wonderful dude I made, and I'm going to do Command K to switch the background color because black is just no good there. So I'm going to do white so I can see my character, and then we're going to grab everything here, right click, and go down to create shapes from vector layers. And so this is going to be so we can animate the paths and hopefully like change some wonky looking ears and stuff without having to work with these Illustrator files. So you can delete these or you can shy them, whatever you want. I'm going to delete them. I don't want to see them. And now we're ready to jump into the rest of the character. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually lock this body layer just so I can't move it. We're not really going to work with it because we're strictly talking about heads for this video. So the first thing we want to do is create a null. You can do Shift, Option, Command Y on your keyboard, or right click, go to New, and down to Null Object. And what we're going to do is position this roughly in the middle of your head, not your head, the character's head, whatever you're animating. And you can name this whatever you want. I'm going to get creative and call it head control, like I said. So that's cool. And now we're ready for the next step. So what we're going to do is kind of something cool. There's a lot of techniques for faking the 3D. You can use a camera, you can do a null object, but what we're going to do is use the null object, but with that weird little controller. So I'm going to show you how to set that up. The first thing we want to do is grab literally everything and just make them all 3D layers. That's easy. So now this looks like an alien. And now what we want to do is go over to this little button here and change this to 2 views. You can do vertical, horizontal, whatever your preference is. I like the horizontal, just nice little split. And as you can see, we have our character over here and we have a line here. And so this line is actually like the Z property, so Z space of all these layers. So if I grab one and I move it forward, you're going to see that it's now in a different position. And this is the whole trick for this little process. The first thing we want to do is just, well, start to align things. So typically you want to put like maybe the ears. You don't have to worry about where they are in the layer panel, but where they are in the Z space. So I'm going to grab the ears here and actually just move them back. So as you can see, they jumped behind the head here, just in Z space. You don't have to get too crazy. This effect is really sold on just a little difference between the Z properties. So I'm going to move them back a little bit and then maybe grab my right ear and, well, I'll just pull it out a touch. And you can like tweak stuff. You can change the paths, whatever you want. But man, I made that a really undersized ear. So I'll just scale that up. And there, that's good with me. So we did our ears. We're gonna go to the hair, and we'll have the hair sit up in front of everything. So like I said, you don't have to go too crazy with it. I'm just gonna move it to something like this. We did our ears, and then we're gonna take the nose, and we're gonna also move this in front of the layer a little bit. So this is like, if you zoom in here, you can kind of see what we're doing. We're just starting to almost make like a little 3D kind of arc of all the different properties is what you want. So next, let's go and grab all of our eye properties. So our eyebrows, our eyes, and we're going to go ahead and just move those up in Z space too. So this I'm going to have sit a little bit in front of the nose, and then I'm actually going to grab those 2 eyebrow outlines and move those forward a little bit as well. So those are actually going to be sitting in front of the eye, and maybe touch them down a little bit too. So now it still doesn't really look like a different illustration, but when we start playing with it, you're going to see what we just did. So next, let's grab our mouth, and as you can see, it's sitting way far back. So let's move this forward, and then we need to grab our beard, if your character has a beard, and move that forward as well. But if I go too far in front of where my mouth was, you actually see we lose it. So you want to make sure that this is still kind of in the correct Z space. And so just like that, we are in a pretty good setup. So at its most basic, if we switch back to one view, this is the setup. So if I press R on my keyboard, we have these properties. Whoopsie, I was just kidding. One other step we want to do is link all of these or parent them to the head control layer, so our null. So now if I tilt my null, you're going to see we have this nice little pseudo 3D effect of these flat layers, and this is like the basis for this whole effect. So we could stop the video there, but I would really like to take it a little bit farther and show you this really cool technique, and also use that Animo thing and some expressions to take this to the next level. So what I like to do is create a little like controller for the head. So I'm going to make a square and just put it above the head. We don't need to worry about too much. I'm going to call this like grid, I guess, a little bit more creative than head control. Make this a little bit smaller and just center up the anchor point there. So let's go ahead and also make, I guess, a circle. It would be a good choice. I'm going to do this and I'll make the stroke way, way smaller. Move this somewhere. I'll center up that anchor point, and then I want to center these together. So if you have your align panel, just align to the selection so they're nice and centered perfectly. And we're going to call the first one like base, or actually I'm going to call it BG, or yeah, I guess BG marker or background marker. We'll duplicate this and we're going to call this like main control. So the first thing we're going to want to do is take our BG marker, press T for opacity, and just turn this down a touch. And so what that is going to do is give us a nice little indication of where the middle is and where we're going. So I'll put that back. I'm going to go ahead and press P for position because we're going to be doing a little bit of expression work in a second. And I'm going to lock this layer. So now that we have this set up, what we want to do is be able to move this to control our head. And this is like a good visual representation of what you're actually doing instead of just like guessing what's going on. And this isn't quite the same. So let's go ahead and do some optimization. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and create some controls. And what that is going to be is some sliders. And so it's a cool little thing in After Effects is expression controls, which are literally meant to help control your expressions. So if we go onto our main control layer, let's grab just 3 sliders, and well, you can also just duplicate them and put them onto our layer. So I'm going to call this like, we'll get creative again. I'm going to call this tilt. And I'll name another one pitch. I'm not sure if we really need the last one, so actually we'll delete it for now because we can always just duplicate that again. So what we want to do with these properties are first link them up to our head control. And so it's super easy to do that. What you want to do is find what rotation you have. So what we have is a Z. So we don't want the Z, we want the Y and the X. So whatever you've named your property as, I'm going to take the Y property and just, sorry, I didn't explain that. Whatever you name these as, you want to just assign to whatever you like for your X and Y. So I don't know if I like named these appropriately for what they're actually doing, but I'm gonna wing it. So what I'm gonna do is hold Option and click the Y rotation and actually make sure that layer is selected. And we're gonna just pick whip the pitch. So when we do that, we now have a slider control to control our layer. So this is just going to be the basics, and then we're going to go into the advanced features. And then let's hold Option and click our X rotation, make sure your main control is selected, and we're going to just pick whip the tilt. So now we have these 2 sliders for our layer. And I guess, you know, this is a little bit easier to understand. You can name these whatever you want, and you don't have to just have X rotation, Y rotation. But the nice thing about this is you can start doing cool things. Like with this, you can do like maybe divide by 20 so that the change that you see here is not as significant. So you have a little bit more precision. And this is gonna get cooler. This is just kind of the basics, I promise. And then maybe with the other one, pick whatever number you want. You can do like maybe divide by 7. So now for this one, we have divided by 7, and this one's divided by 20. So that's like a nice way to just make the controls easier to work. You could also just do like value divided by 20 if you didn't even want to use the sliders, and then for this stuff you would have more precision. So that's kind of nice, but it's still not quite as like visual. Like I'm a visual person, so I want an easier way to control it. So what we want to do is use this little weird thing up here to control our character. So what this is going to do is take a little bit of expression work to figure this all out. So we're going to first go ahead and click Option on our tilt control, and we get a little expression box, and we're going to make up, well, a little expression. The first thing we want to do is hold Shift with main control selected and press P on your keyboard, and that's also going to pop up your position properties, and that's just so we can pick whip them very easily. So what we want to do is declare 2 variables. We're going to say original and press equal, and the original position that we want is going to be the BG marker one. So that's why we locked it, but with the position available. So I'm going to do that, but we don't want all the position. We only want one of the properties. So the position property is actually in an array. So that means like this would be considered 0 and this would be 1. So to access that, all you do is you do these brackets and you type 0 and then add a semicolon. So that's our first property. So now it has snapped to our first property there of 934, but obviously this is looking pretty derpy, so we don't want that. What we need is a new value. So let's type new value, and we're going to grab another little positional data. So we're going to just pick whip directly onto the first value here and not just like the whole position, because we only want this first array value. And as you can see, it snaps properly to add that little bracket there. So now we have two values. So what we want to do is take the difference of these two values and use that to help control the sliders. So when one changes, we're getting a nice like amount of change. So what we're going to want to do is type a little expression. So we're going to say if the, I guess we're going to say like if the new value is, I kind of forgot what the exact thing I did was, but we'll wing it. So if the new value is greater than the original value, so that means it's not all centered up, we're going to go ahead and do something. So let's see, I spelled original stupid. So then we're going to add two of these little dudes, just like you would do in any code. And now we're going to add what we want it to do if the value is greater than the original. So what we're going to do is find the difference between the two values. So we're going to say math.absolute. So absolute is like the 100% difference in values. It doesn't encounter like negatives or positives. It's a really helpful expression. And we're going to say you can do new value minus original or original minus new value. It doesn't matter because it's an absolute math statement. So we'll say original spelled wrong minus new value. So now what this does is, let's see, if new value is greater than original, so right now it's not, but if I start moving this, we're going to see that now we're starting to get a change in our value. So what's cool is as I'm moving this away from my starting position, we have this little tilt happening. But what happens if I go in the negative is it snaps wrong. So as you can see, that's no good. So it looks like we have to do a little bit more expression work to get this to work properly. So what we're going to do is say, we'll add a little extra statement. We're going to say else, we'll do the little bracket dudes. We'll grab our little math absolute statement, put it here. But what we're going to do is be sneaky, and we're going to say times -1. And so the reason we're doing that and add a semicolon just to make it nice and stable is so once it's gone past that 0, 0, now it's going to be in the negative. So now it's going to tilt the opposite way with the same expression. So next what we want to do is first assign this to the proper direction, because I'm going to side, but it's tilting up and down. So what we're going to do is actually just change our little property here. We'll change both of these to 1, and now when we go up and down, it's going to tilt properly. So if you like to do an inverted approach to this, which I do like, all you have to do is change this greater than sign to less than without pressing the caps lock. And now when I go down, it's going up, and when I go up, it's going down. I always think that's kind of fun. So all we have to do now is copy what we just did and paste it onto the pitch, which I'm pretty sure I named wrong at this point. And we're going to add zeros to both these little brackets instead of the ones, because we want the X value instead of the Y. And we're going to change this to greater than again. And now what we have is a wonderful way to control our rig. So this is all like inverted, which is what I said I prefer. You might not, and you can switch it to whatever you like just by changing that greater than sign. But this is like a really helpful way to visualize what's going on. And so it seems like I might have some funny values here. So if I go into the head control, press R, we can change these two properties. Maybe this has to be like 8, and like this is just playing around to see how much precision you want. So maybe it's like 8 and 20 is better. And this does feel a little bit more comfortable. If you want to keep it inside the box, just make your number bigger or smaller. But as you can see, this is like a really cool way to control your character in a visual way without having to mess with sliders or rotation or anything that you want. And if you do want to do some optimization, you can actually just take this code and just dump it directly into your head controls and actually skip the whole slider deal 100%. But for this video, we'll keep it there just so, well, why not? I don't want to bore you guys too much. So there we go. We have this wonderful little head turn. This is great. I love it. And then if we don't want to make sure, well, obviously we don't want this to render. That'd look pretty stupid. So just grab all these layers, right click, and go down and make them guide layers. Just so if you do choose to render, they will not get carried over into the render or export. So next what we want to do is use Animo. So what Animo does is gives you another way to control all the properties maybe on the face with the same layer that you're controlling the head turn with. So we don't have to keep toggling down into all these properties, which would get pretty annoying. So let's go ahead and just put it wherever you want. Maybe I will add a little bit of animation. So I'll just set a keyframe on position, go forward in time, and just, I don't know, tilt him up over here, come forward a little bit more. Maybe slide this over. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. Maybe add some stupid whatevers to this, and yeah, we'll just call it good. There's really no point of what this is other than to visualize it. So there we go. We have this really awesome way to control head turns, and maybe add some easing, and well, we're doing good. So where does Animo come in? Well, it comes in right now because that's what we're going to cover. So what we want to do is take like these properties, maybe like the eyes and the mouth, and add controls to the main control layer. So we don't have to keep like toggling down into properties and changing keyframes. So what we're going to do is grab the mouth layer, hold command, and just set a keyframe on the path, press U so we just see the path. And we'll do just some basic animation, just add a couple different mouth movements. That's cool. I'll go forward in time and just make the mouth look a little bit different, like he's, well, I don't know what he's doing. Great, that looks fantastic. And then I'll do this. So obviously if we're doing a character dialogue, we don't want to keep having to toggle down and back and forth because that gets kind of messy. So what you can do is you grab the property you want. You can grab multiple properties at once, it doesn't matter. And the last thing you want to do is designate a control layer. So once you have all the properties on any layers you want to be Animo or like controlled, you just select a main control layer. So in my case, it's a main control, very smart. And you do the shortcut Shift Command 2, which is right here. So we're gonna just launch it. You can do Shift Command 2, and now you're gonna see that the mouth has changed from that stupid face, and our main control layer now has a property called, well, a whole bunch of blabber, and a keyframe has been added, which it does automatically. So let's first go and name this something a little bit smarter, like mouth control, because I'm creative. And now what we're going to do is just play with the slider and see what happens. Well, it's going to go through all those keyframes we made. So, well, that is really nice. When we're doing dialogue, I can easily just change stuff like this without having to change those original keyframes. And I can go back and forth through them without having to worry about actually setting the keyframes because I have this wonderful slider. So this has added like some code. Feel free to look through it if you like. And yeah, so I actually put that together today because I was talking through all the expressions and I realized it might just be easier to just have like a quick tool to make the expressions for us and save us some time. So now I have this nice control for the mouth. Well, let's say we want to also do some animation maybe with like the eyes or the eyebrows. We'll do the eyebrows. So I'll press P and do something kind of crazy, I guess. We'll wiggle the eyebrows. So I'll just go forward in time with the position. Take the left eye and maybe raise it up here, and the right eyebrow I will drop down just a touch. And then maybe I'll also go into the scale properties or the path properties of these two layers. I'll set a keyframe and a keyframe, press U and press U. So now we have keyframes on our path properties. And for maybe this one, I will grab it and just lift it up. And then for this one, we won't get too crazy. We'll just maybe make it look a little different and sad. There we go. This is my favorite animation I've ever done. And well I stupidly just, here, I'll copy well, I guess I overwrote the original keyframes, unfortunately. So let me go ahead and put this back together. Fantastic, it looks great. So now I have these 4 properties. So like I said, let's just grab those 4 properties and then designate a control layer. So the main control layer, and I'll do Shift Command 2 on my keyboard. And now we have all these new controls linked up to those properties. So I really don't even need to see those anymore. And I'll go up to my main control, and like I said, it auto adds keyframes to whatever the time is you're at. So I'll do that. And what we want to do is find out what's controlling what and rename it. So this is going to be the what would this be? The left eyebrow control. And then this would be the, I guess that would have to be the right eyebrow. Eyebrow, doesn't matter what I'm typing. This is the right eye. And then this is the left eye. So what this has now done is given us a really cool way to change properties over time without like having to worry about going back and adding more keyframes, because we can go back through them. So that's why I like to use this tool, and you can use it for tons more stuff than just character rigging, but I find like this makes it super easy to do. So just add a quick little easing, and now in no time at all, from one layer I'm able to control all this stuff and make my character look amazing. I think he might have just had a seizure or something while I was talking. But so there we go. So you can do this to any of the properties and like make the hair change, make the beard change, make ears move in and out, add shadows. It's super, super flexible and a lot of fun to do. And so in a nutshell, that is how I would approach creating a 2.5D character inside After Effects. And then if you want to do the optimization, you can go and just totally get rid of these like tilt and pitch sliders and just add that expression directly to the rotation. And then also one other thing I want to touch on is this enable option that's on your controls for all these properties. If you are a good friend, you will enable them, and if you're a bad friend, you won't. So if I don't, you're going to see that it jumps back, and if it's not enabled, that means it's going to take the normal properties of that layer. So I think this was the left eyebrow. Yep. So now it's going to take those original keyframes, and so I'd have to go and animate them like this, which is very time consuming. And yeah, so if I do want to use it, I can just go ahead and check that, and now I have all those properties to go back and forth through, which is super cool. So this was Matt from Mograph. This was 2.5D characters inside Adobe After Effects with the free goodie giveaway called Animo. Thank you so much. Seriously, I don't say that enough for just checking out the channel, the awesome comments, the likes. It means a lot. Like it's more than I could put into words how much it's made me happy. It's made me, some of those comments are just hilarious. So thank you so much for checking out the channel. I hope you have fun with this stuff. I'm sorry if I talk a ton. My jokes are bad. I try. I really do. But, you know, I'm kind of stuck with this personality. But thank you so much for checking out the channel. You guys rock. And yeah, have a great week. Peace.